All right. And then just give me a second. We're going to go live on Facebook, and you'll know when we're live. Give me just a second here.
Matt, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Did you make your old fashioned?
Can you see that? Let's see if we can get that Cardinal on the ice.
Oh, give me just a second.
I showed him earlier.
Yeah. It's been inserted with my Woodford. So I saw some glasses tipping up when I came on, so I got to do the same.
All right, here we go.
All right, we're getting started. Hello, everyone. Good evening and happy Thursday. Like I was saying, it's great to see so many smiling faces and so many Louisville alumni and friends joining us tonight for Cocktails with Cardinals. At last check, we had people from over 23 different states signed on joining us, so that's pretty incredible. We've been doing these for about 2 or 3 months now, and so far I can tell you, having Tyra join us tonight has by far been the most popular and the most well-attended Zoom session we've had so far for our Cocktails with Cardinals. I'm Matt Willinger. I'm Executive Director of Operations for Louisville Alumni, and we've got a great night planned for you with Vince Tyra joining us. Some were signed on earlier, but for those that joined late, I wanted to first share my cocktail since this is Cocktails with Cardinals. I'm happy to be sipping the world's finest bourbon, Woodford Reserve. And what's better than drinking a Woodford Reserve Old Fashioned while listening to some UofL sports updates? So a special thanks to the good folks at Woodford for being our official partner for tonight's event. Great people, great products, and we appreciate their involvement. While I'm giving shout outs, I also wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Kentucky Straight Ice for tricking out my cocktail with this super fancy ice. Vince showed off his, I showed off mine a little earlier. We've got these Cardinal ice cubes. They're pretty cool. And if you're looking to support a locally owned business that's run by a UofL alum, Rich Fink, give them a call. You can track them down on social media at Kentucky Ice. I'm thinking it's Labor Day weekend. The UofL has their football home opener. It's Derby night. You're going to want some Cardinal logoed ice for your tailgate or for your party. So go ahead, look them up online. It's pretty cool stuff. But now I wanted to bring on Vince Tyra. I'm give him a quick introduction. Most of you guys know him, but Vince is a Louisville native with strong business credentials. He was named UofL's athletic director in 2018. And if you're a UofL sports fan, you know he's been a little busy since arriving at UofL, hiring Coach Chris Mack, hired Coach Scott Satterfield on the football side, and while extending the contracts of women's basketball coach Jeff Walls and baseball coach Dan McDonnell. During Vince's first 2 years at UofL, UofL's ranked among the top 35 in the nation in the College Directors Cup. And the Cardinal athletic team collectively just posted a 3.5 GPA for the spring semester, which is pretty impressive. Vince, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking some time with us tonight. We know you have a busy schedule. I imagine things have gotten even busier in the last couple weeks and months. So we really appreciate you taking some time. And before we jump into the UofL updates, how have you been and how are things with you and your family at this time?
Well, first, cheers to the rest. I see a number of you, and I see a lot of familiar faces tipping up. Alan Clare, will you stop tipping so fast? It's been different for all of us, right? I mean, I've spent a lot of time in my own house. I've gone to the lake some, but I've not exposed myself and my family a great deal. I know that there's a lot of student athletes on campus now that I don't want to put at risk either. And I know I'm in more of the wheelhouse of trouble than they are, but still trying to be thoughtful about that. If you see me going to campus in the morning, I've got my mask on the minute I'm out of my car and to the office and so forth, and doing all the things. We've got to set the right tone for our student athletes that we're going to do this as a staff once everyone, even the staff, returns to campus. Maybe we have athletes doing that, but not all the staff has. But no, we're doing fine. I mean, certainly, I'd be remiss to tell you if we weren't emotional and discouraged with what's going on in our hometown right now and across the country. I think that it's even hard to talk about it. Maybe I need a sip on that one.
Well, there's another protest taking place.
I've certainly talked to our student athletes about what's going on. It's fortunate they only have a perspective of 18 to 22 years of this. We certainly, most on here, have a longer perspective of what's happening in our country, and you'd like to think we're further away from these type issues, and equality was closer than we are, and certainly unconscious bias in those things. I was certainly raised in a different area where I've been. I was around races growing up in Middletown Recreational Park and Eastern High School, and those things run around there. And certainly getting into college athletics, and even our college athletics, predominantly minorities. It's been different for me, so I'm a little bit more maybe immune to what's going on outside of that. But I will tell you, it's got me fired up. I've talked to Junior Bridgman and Wade Houston and Valerie Combs, the other night, back and forth extensively about what this white male can do to help the cause, and where I am in this community, and being in a leadership position, and certainly in the athletic forum of, as I've said, I've said this in every place I've been, we need intentional change. And that means action. That means setting up things and not just going out and using the same words that have been used and the same rhetoric and so forth, but actually doing things. And, ironically, about a year and a half ago, one of the things when I set up that ethical leadership excellence program in the business school, first thing we taught was empathy. You have to teach empathy, no matter the age. You're not too old to learn it, to be able to appreciate the differences between each other. And our staff is diverse, as as much as our athletes. And yet it was clear to me that when I got there that we needed that. We didn't deal well with conflict as a senior team, and I felt like we should be more cognizant of what's around us and the environment we should set. So that you can teach empathy, and I guess that's where I am. And you can educate, no matter the age, on these issues. And if I sit here and told you why I am the way I am today and what shaped me to give, my thoughts are, you'd feel differently about me. And if I listen to everyone on here, give me 4 or 5 minutes of what shaped their views, or how they were raised, or whether they were a product of divorce or abuse or whatever it might be, that they, I'd have a different empathy, a different feeling about the individuals if we were sitting across the table from each other dealing with an issue. So, I want to, take the whole session here, but I would tell you that I'd certainly ask everyone to join in, and as I know, we've had a lot of great Black leaders take the ball a long way, but it's going to take some white influence and to help this cause, to rid this from where we are in society. So, Matt, I'm sorry to sidetrack you there, but certainly my views, and you'll see more of these things come from our university, but I will tell you, you'll see things specific from our athletic department.
Well, no, that's a great segue, because we've seen several of the UofL coaches post statements on their personal Twitter addressing this important issue. What kind of communication have you had with the student athletes beyond the coaches, and how much communication are you having with the coaches while all of this is taking place?
Yeah, well, it just happened that, with the student athletes, we had 2 groups on Monday. We have a student athlete advisory committee, the SAC group, which is about 60 leaders in our student athletes that represent a number of things. And they're kind of the voice and the ears for our athletes. And I spoke to that group giving them my support, my views, and encouraging them. I'm not looking for them to be measured in their comments. I also want to be thoughtful about that they don't get on the wrong side of issues either. We teach them about social media. We give them guidance and things like that. But they're students. They're students first. They have rights. And I've said that since the day I got in here, that if they want to protest or they have an issue that they feel strong about, then they should bring that up. I think the good thing is our student athletes, we kind of say, if you need guidance or help, or you feel like you're in unfamiliar territory, talk to your coach, talk to your sport admin, and I'm close enough to them to where they talk to me. And that's happened. They know I'm a good listener when they come to my office, and we encourage that. And I did that with a second group, that we just allowed coaches and sport administrators to pick a random group of student athletes, and they were on there, and we talked about a variety of things, returning to campus and how we're going to keep them safe and the measures we're taking, but also about the racial tension that's going on and the role they can play, and or if they want to play it. And if they want to hold a poster that says "Stop killing me" or "Stop shooting me" and things like that, you saw many of our football players with our coaching staff and administrative group walking downtown, a peaceful protest. A peaceful protest.
Definitely. I think that too, communication is so important. And so it's great to hear that those lines are open on campus. Well, when folks found out you'd be joining us, we received over 4 pages of questions for you. But by far the number one question on everybody's mind, and it's the number one question I get the most, is what's the latest with football season? Where are we? What updates can you share? Any info you can give us to help know whether or not we're going to have a season and what that might look like?
Yeah, well, it's it's difficult to tell today because things are changing so rapidly in our environment around the healthcare. And I tell everybody on the staff, you have a role in us having fans in the stands. You have a role by washing your hands. You have a role by wearing the mask where you should. You have a role in distancing and things like that, and being responsible. And the more we do that, the better chance we have of having a full stadium. And I do believe that. And I think that's why the numbers are where they are overall, and we're watching them closely. I'm really interested to get to the middle of the month and see if there's a spike from the Memorial Day weekend and when, things were loosened up, particularly here in the state and the city,
right,
as to what's happening there. But we don't talk about that as much as you would think, because as athletic directors, we meet twice a week as the ACC ADs, and it's not what we're talking about today. We think that's an agenda item we're going to be talking about sometime in July. And so I'm not saying we haven't thought about it, considered it. Even if we have a full stadium, we still should be doing the measures we planned on doing. And ironically, hopefully this won't curtail some of our construction, but we had already contemplated more entry gates. That's where my worry was at the entry gates as much as sitting in the stands. So I think we were looking at how do we widen the concourse. I've been a fan. I've walked those concourses. I hate it when the concessions line jams up against the kiosk line that's selling pretzels or beer or whatever, and then there's no way to get between them at halftime, and that bothers me. And so I've looked at it a lot. We've talked about it with our team as, the good old mulch walkway was, I think at the time, architecturally kind of cool, but maybe not the best these days. So we should probably, unfortunately, have more concrete and wider concourses and things like that, more entry gates, and being thoughtful about what else we can do when people do want to get up and leave their seats. Because, me personally, I knew who sat around me all these years. I could call them right now. Well, unfortunately, we've lost Don Hickeybein, who sat in front of me for years. But I mean, I would say that I would, reaching out, I know who sits around me and say, like, y'all been safe? Do my own screening.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a certain amount of at will, at risk, but I would tell you, we have not had a mandate at this point about capacity. I think, our season ticket holders generally, go past the 50% capacity. I've been asked that question. Generally we get up higher than that, 60+%. But, we got to think about all areas of this: premium seating, bowl seating, on the terrace where people like to go hang out, and obviously in those who are fortunate to have suites, do we give them guidelines around, you got seats outside, so many sit outside, so many inside. So we're trying to be thoughtful about every area where somebody sits down or stands up to watch the game. If we do have to make any changes.
Sure, because I'm thinking, if fans are permitted, what will seating look like? And I'm sure you're going to need to retrofit the stadium, because even when you go into restaurants and stuff, you see where they've added barriers and stuff. And so I'm thinking, have you started thinking about, what the stadium might look like if you have to put in some of those barriers or some of those safeguards?
Yeah, a honeycomb. No, I mean, I have, but I'm being honest with you, Matt. If you asked Michael Dudas and Michael Wortman is our associate AD of facilities and so forth, we're collecting data, but we've spent so much time on preparing our budget, a revised budget related to the COVID and what's happened there. And then we turned around and our senior team worked endlessly through weekends to prepare for return to campus. And we've been a leader in both of those in the nation, literally. We've shared our playbook with every school to help them, because these are not competitive times when you're talking about how people need to make their budgets work and how to get kids back on campus safely. HBO called today and asked for our return to campus playbook, because they heard it was, like the gold standard. So I'd like to believe that we've been leaders in both of those regards. And I think as we're planning to turn to stadium and those kind of things, obviously we have, racial tension and social issues that I want my team focused on. So we're going to kick the can on how people are going to be seated in the stadium so we can deal with the bigger cause.
How much communication are you having with Coach Satterfield? I mean, from what I've seen him say in the press, it looks like he wants to play, and then they're gearing up with student athletes coming back to campus this week. They're preparing for a season.
Yeah, no, I talked to him this morning, mid-morning after I had my ACC meeting, and we talked about some football, component issues coming up, about how much time they need to practice before they start. I mean, there's things being voted on today. I'm anxious to get my email to see what's being voted on, even in the football oversight committee related to start times and things like that happening today. And then later we'll get into other issues. And I mean, like number of weeks before you kick off your first game, roster size, all those kind of things, number of hours you can practice. Because it's a unique situation. But I talked to Scott. We talk about recruiting. Things are really hot in recruiting. They're doing extremely well, as you guys are seeing in the media. They're on to some terrific players right now. I do a lot of that. I do this at night, 7, 8 o'clock. I'm on the Zoom with them. I'll get on with Dwayne Ledford, Brian Brown, Pete Nocta, the staff. I'm doing a lot of recruiting these days with my evenings, and spend a lot of time in front of the laptop without the bourbon, but talking to families and telling them about what's going on. And I'm working as hard as they are to support their success. And it's I will tell you, our close rate's been good. They get me on with some of these top recruits, and I'm happy to see when they commit, and then I already know the kid. I'm already exchanging texts with them, and that's really neat. I love working with them to do all I can for their success.
Well, a lot of people thought you made a home run hire when you brought on Chris Mack, but if that was a home run, I think Coach Satterfield might have been a grand slam. I mean, 8-5 overall, coming off a 2-10 season, ends up beating Mississippi State, an SEC team, in the Music City Bowl. Yeah. Just your overall impressions after his first year.
Yeah, well, first I wouldn't say home run. I'd have said a touchdown with a 2-point conversion.
There you go.
No,
you're a baseball guy. I was trying to keep it in your language.
Yeah, I get it. Mine would have been a strikeout. I was a pitcher though. No, I mean, he's so genuine, so authentic. I got a great relationship with all our coaches, really do. I mean, I think that, with Chris, we were together this weekend, by the way. So we spent hours talking about the social issues. We went to the lake together. Our houses are on the same street. I live 3 doors down from Scott. So we really are. I mean, that sounds weird to tell you, but we really are family. I mean, I spend a lot of time. I go down and help Dan McDonald, his wife, buy a boat, or, if people want to do things or talk socially. It's almost weird how close we are when I talk about our coaches. And because I'm still a fan, and I always tell them I'm trying to be helpful without being intrusive. But I like recruiting. I like, mixing it up with them and pranking them and all that stuff. So Scott's been awesome. Beth, what a great addition to our community. You know, my job is to make sure they're happy, their kids are happy, and they like what's going on, and give them all the support. You know, we certainly addressed as assistant coaches right as the season ended. Nobody came knocking on my door. Tried to be proactive already, getting their contracts extended and rolling and dealing with things like that. And I think their continuity is the key for us to be able to beat Clemson and take on this conference. And it's key for us to have the continuity in coaching staff. I've seen it in business when I've had continuity in my own management team, and we need that here. And we've got somebody that can lead us to where, you know, we really compete for championships.
Moving on to basketball, because I know a lot of basketball fans signed on. What's going on with the NCAA situation? Can you share anything, any updates or a timeline of what's happening?
Yeah, we're kind of in the boring period. Everybody knows we got our notice of allegations on May 4th, and we're just working through. We're trying to sort through what the NCAA is alleging. Obviously, we're not comfortable with all of that. And we're just, you know, working through our responses. We put together what I think is a great team, a third party with our internal group, and, you know, building our response. We have 90 days to do that. And our hope is, you know, our intention is to have that ready in 90 days. But, you know, Matt, the timing is somewhat out of our control with the whole first round of responses, because there are 3 coaches that were a part of this, and, you know, Coach Patino, Johnson, and Fair, that they also have the same 90-day timeline. And if they don't ask for extensions, then they'll all be on 90 days. But we've traditionally seen coaches ask for extension, as all it takes is one. I'm not sure whether they will or not. But, you know, I think if you play this out and you look where we are today versus where Kansas and North Carolina State and Oklahoma State and those that were before us have already been named, of the schools, there's 7 of them. It's been around 5 months before you really see anything brewing up and happening before the next step, and that's for the NCAA to respond. So what I guess I'm getting to is, I get asked a lot about if I had a magic, you know, crystal ball, would I think we'd be playing in the NCAA tournament next year? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, I hope that is the answer, because I will say I was so disappointed that March Madness was canceled early, because I felt like on both sides, I felt like Coach Mack and Coach Walls both had teams that were positioned to make deep runs in the tournament this year. And then, you know, not only to see the potential that these teams had, but then also you felt like some guys like Ryan McMahon and Jordan War, and some guys that have stuck with the Cards through good times and bad times. It just didn't feel right for them not to get, you know, that storybook finish in the NCAA tournament that they deserved.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I really, you know, Ryan is one I spent a lot of time trying to console, and Jordan, you know, Malik Williams coming back, you know, Dwayne Sutton, our hometown kid. Yeah. Just it's really heartbreaking to the next morning get on the plane with him. I admit I got choked up talking to him and to the families as we were heading back, and that was a difficult day. And you know, I knew we had work to do and so forth, but that was a tough one. You mentioned the Learfield Cup standings. You know, we were at our highest ranking, 8th in the country, leading into the winter championships, meaning men's and women's swimming both being top 10, and the men's and women's basketball heading in with deep runs in front of them. Baseball being preseason number 1. It was clear we were going to have what looked like our highest ranking ever in UofL athletics in the Learfield Cup. Happy we came out where we did, and, you know, academic-wise, we really, we did a great job. You think about 3.5. I mean, just so proud of that, and coming off of where we were at the top of the ACC, and something else that's going to play in really well right now is I've pushed hard in my 3 years on community service to make sure these kids are well balanced, and be, you know, we preach gratitude over entitlement, and we're number 1 in the NCAA in community service, and that doesn't happen by accident. And I think now it avails us the opportunity to shift that community service activities and where it should go. I think you're going to see more of that, even more in the West End, even though Ralph Fitzpatrick, who's on our athletic board, gave us great kudos in my annual review on Friday about all the good work we've done. There's obviously more to come.
Well, from classroom to on the court to in the community, Vince, I know that not only our community but the rest of the league is taking note, because a quick congratulations to you as being voted the chairman of the ACC Athletic Directors.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. Maybe because of all this turmoil, it's brought out the business side or the leadership side to have your peers kind of recognize that. I've been fortunate that I got to know my peers very well, and I talked to them a lot. I talked to Blake James at University of Miami last night, and it's interesting to be in this position where they call for advice, talking about legislative issues, name image and likeness, all those things. So the league has, I've been on 3 subcommittees in the ACC. The name, image, and likeness is one that I'm on right now with 3 other ADs. I've been on budget finance for the league, just coming through COVID and all that we've done, this return to campus activity, which was not a formal one, but certainly our material was used in the league. I think it's just a recognition of our team's accomplishments as much as my own. I certainly get to play the leader, but I got to pull it out of our team, and that's what's really cool is it's been great. We've certainly reshaped our team over the few years, as most know, but it's awesome, and they've all got different strengths to add to the table. And I hate to keep going back on this, but harping on Pat Ivy, is a African American, played in the NFL, hired him as our associate D over sport, student athlete, sport performance and health, and he was in Missouri during the Ferguson time, and boy, are we tapping into his knowledge and experience right now. He's really just amazing. Got great insights and everything, and we just have a great team. It's fun to go to work.
It looks that way. Well, before we move on from basketball, I just wanted to say I didn't know if it was your call or Coach Mac's call or maybe a combination, but me personally, and probably on behalf of a lot of the listeners, thank you for bringing back the dunking Cardinal bird because it's my favorite UofL logo. Yeah,
well, mine too. As you know, I've grown up in it, and boy, I tell you, we couldn't wait to get that thing unveiled. I'm not going to say it was one of the best secrets we've kept, but it was so much fun working on that, where we were going to go on the practice floor and the game floor down at Yum, and bringing it back in our logo and apparel and so forth. I think you certainly have to embrace your future, but you got to respect the past. And I think that's where I reside, being born and raised from here. And, Chris was excited. He loved it. He's got a real cool factor about him anyways. And he really relates to our fans and our players well. So, he was pumped up. When we showed it to him, his jaw dropped. And we've had a lot of fun with it. And you'll certainly see more of it.
Oh, it's awesome. I've got another question for you, and then we're going to roll right into some of the questions that have been submitted by our watchers tonight.
Sure.
Final question was just, I wanted to get some clarity on the status of seniors who had their careers cut short by COVID. Are they eligible to come back? And if so, have you heard of any that have expressed interest in coming back, or kind of what happens to all those that had their careers ended so shortly?
Yeah, so we had about 35, that were that had their eligibility exhausted, if you will, and the NCAA ruling allowed. It was permissible. It wasn't mandated, but it was permissible. Every school got to choose on their own whether these seniors would come back and have another year of eligibility. I will tell you, I'm surprised at some of the schools. I don't want to name names, but that did not allow some of their seniors to come back. We did. We tried to work our budget around as best we could, and we knew it was going to be about $300,000 to probably let some of these seniors who told us they wanted to come back. They'll probably be about 15, and some of that will be dictated by the Major League Baseball draft on next week on the 10th, whether we'll have some back or not. But we're excited to see, probably, like I said, around 15, you'll see some in golf, tennis. Celine Funky, who's one of our leaders in the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, she's our center fielder in softball and a 4.0 student, a terrific kid. I got her internship at Raymond James. She just excelled there. So it's going to be fun having them around. Glad to see some of them coming back. But, others are, whether they're in their nursing school or got through their MBA, you got to keep in mind that we have our football team particularly, they graduate early. We played Mississippi State in that bowl game. Oh, we kicked their ass, by the way. But when we played Mississippi State in that bowl game, we had 31 graduates on that sideline. 31 of them had a sticker with the cap on, graduation cap on it during that game. And that's something that we've pushed on. Certainly I've pushed on academics. I was one whose career ended with an injury, and I'm glad it happened in college and not when I was out of college. And it was an eye opener for me. So I used my own experience with our student athletes. And it was cool when we played Notre Dame and ESPN focused on our football team and their academics with those stickers on their helmets and not that other school.
Sure. You touched on it a little bit in terms of how you liked being involved in the recruiting and the recruitment of the Louisville student athletes. How is recruiting going to look when we come out of COVID-19? I mean, because right now you hear about the on-campus visits, but you also hear about the coaches going into the homes, and I'm sure some parents aren't going to be willing to welcome everybody in. And just have you and the coaches had those conversations about adjusting your strategy, or what will it look like in the future?
Well, to be honest, I think it's going to look a lot like this. It's amazing. The younger group, the younger generation has really adjusted to this probably before we did. I don't know how many on here had been on Zoom more than 5 times in their life before all this occurred. But it's interesting to see how many of them do enjoy it, and they get more family on there on the Zoom calls and participate. So I don't know if it'll entail as many travel trips as it has in the past. It may create more family time for our coaching staff, which I'd appreciate. I'm sure their families would too. But but that also, you're seeing a lot of kids commit. We've gotten really good. We were out in front with virtual tours of our campus, virtual tours of our athletic facilities. We produced them. They're fantastic. We actually did them for the campus as well. Jenny Sawyer, as you guys mostly know, Jenny was very grateful for. We sent the athletic marketing team over to do virtual videos and tours of our campus for campus to use that in recruiting as well. So we've invested well in where we are, and I think that's put us in a good spot. So I just think there's going to be long-term changes, and one of them is going to be, I don't know if there's going to be as many at home or unofficial visits like you see families spending their own money to come visit campus. They may hold on to a few dollars and do more of these type visits and then make those visits more meaningful.
Yeah, and well, that totally makes sense. From recruiting the student athletes to recruiting in the community, how has COVID-19 affected corporate funding or corporate fundraising and the amount of donations you normally see coming in? Are you noticing a difference as we see, unemployment, skyrocketing, and, finances in a lot of homes are drastically changed as compared to where they were in February?
Yeah, well, it probably speaks well to our brand, Matt, today. I'm not saying it won't change, but if I just look at football and where we are in those seats that require donation, we're in really good shape. We're right on track. I think from the corporate side, certainly Learfield represents us with our corporate sponsorship. With many of our corporate sponsors you see around campus and down in the arena. And I asked them, I've got a meeting with them tomorrow, but I asked them a few weeks ago, where are we in relation to renewals for next year? And it was amazing. We were right on the exact same percent that we were last year, and actually up over a couple of years ago. It's been an interesting dynamic, and particularly with TV, where the ratings are off the charts. They show anything they show. They show NASCAR without fans in the stands, and the TV ratings are crazy. They do the golf event with Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Phil, and the ratings were unbelievable, like record. We're so desperate for any activity. I'd probably watch a few of you guys race each other on TV right now. Anything athletic competition, but so I do think it's interesting what's happening there, and I think people are realizing maybe the dollars may shift a little bit in stadium to TV, but our deal with ACC and the ESPN with the ACC network is based upon distribution, meaning households. It's not advertising sales, it's number of households that it's in, and it's certainly expanded to a number of households. And when Comcast, which is the last big one for us for the ACC, would come online, their contract runs out next September. It'll even boost it even further. Millions of households will be added, next fall.
When we were waiting for you to sign on, I mentioned our partners, Kentucky Straight Ice and Woodford, and I was saying you should have both on hand for that Labor Day weekend, because I feel like there's a perfect storm coming with U of L's home opener. You've got Thurby the same night. You've got Kentucky Derby that weekend. Have you guys started planning logistically about, I mean, U of L's got that night game, same day as Thurby. There's a lot going on in a small area of town there, and a lot of excitement.
Yeah, and to be honest, we haven't talked a lot about it, but I have talked about, you have to take everything through the football oversight committee and certainly, in town, the ACC and all those things. But, we're trying to sort out whether we can even pull that off Thursday night or whether we should be playing Wednesday night.
Right.
Bill Mudd, who's the president over at Churchill Downs, a personal friend, he and I've talked a lot about our shared resources in terms of, using all the security and police and all that goes on, our parking lot. Granted, Thurby's not near the amount of traffic that Derby is, but it's still, Thurby, our local, geez, I mean, I think it was 50,000 plus last year.
Yes, sir.
That's my wife's girl day. All her sorority sisters from UofL go that day, so there's a dozen of them causing trouble and spending money in town. But no, I think we're trying to sort all that out. But it's going to be a spectacular week. It's just an odd time of year.
Yeah, talking about Derby on Labor Day, it makes you stop and think.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a couple more questions that were submitted by the listeners. This is one that I'm kind of curious myself. What keeps you up at night as the AD at U of L? What worries when you're laying there keep you up?
It's probably more internal. I don't, in my career, I've been good about quarantining my thoughts about what I can control, what our team can control. I don't spend a lot of energy worrying about the external things very much, to be honest. I mean, when I came into this gig, it wasn't exactly smooth waters, and it hadn't exactly been smooth throughout. But in that whole time, our team has controlled our side of things. We've run this thing for 2 years and 8 months, really, frankly, really well. And we got a good thing going, and we're doing a lot of good stuff. I didn't wait for an NCAA notice of allegations to start straightening things out. We started day one and changing our, the ethics of how we run it. Certainly trying to make good business decisions, teaching analytics, teaching customer service. We added more people in the fundraising. We added more ticket people to reach out to our fans and get to know them better, where those were areas that have been contracted out or cut. And I think that's, so we've been more customer facing and shifted some of our, I'll say some of our administrative fat into areas that I think are more beneficial to everybody who's on the Zoom call personally. So I think, I'm more worried about more of our people, holding them accountable, doing the right things, treating everyone here on the call right. I don't worry about, what's happening in the economics. You just got to adjust. Yeah, you never know the cards you're going to be dealt when you take on a situation. It's a true test to your leadership. And I've certainly had a few tests here, but I'm really proud of our team.
Well, and knowing you a little bit, you're definitely not the one to sit around and wait. A man of action. So it didn't surprise me that a lot of that stuff was already taking place. I want to flip the script on you. And instead of what keeps you up at night, what gets you up in the morning? What motivates you to get up and to do, like you've said, you've been really busy in this job over the last 2 years. What is it that's that motivating factor?
I don't want to be corny, but this is a great cause. I took this for different reasons than most ADs. I don't want to get into all of that, but this one hits home for me. U of L is a terrific place. The city needs us. The athletic department needs to succeed for the university to do well. My family's roots in this, my father especially, how much he loved this place. Just like Wes Unseld, when Wes passed, Connie, she's sending words back, even when I talked to Wade and Junior, she called and said, make sure you call Vince and let him know how much Wes loved Louisville and was so proud and everything, just like my father was, being a hometown kid. And so I'm not saying this is a labor of love or anything. And this, these jobs don't pay minimum wage. It's certainly probably about 40% less when I walked in the door for my own cause, my own decisions, but it's for the right cause. And it's, we got a good thing here, and it needs it needs leadership to get us on track, stay on track to where we're going to go long term, be sustainable. Not that we haven't had a good run before I got here. We had. I think people knew that, but we obviously had some issues to deal with, and I feel like we're in a good place. We've really developed our leadership team. When I did their annual reviews, I talked about where they were a year ago and where they are now. They've all got a bigger voice, and that's really important. Because when I got here, I joked with them, I'm going to be quick to listen and slow to speak. And then we'll develop a plan and go from there. And that's kind of what we did.
Well, and as somebody that was on the media side and then is now working for UofL, I can tell you from both angles, you can feel the momentum. You know, you can definitely feel the positive momentum that's been made over the last 2 years, and you can feel it building. And I'm on this side, I can tell you we're excited.
Very good.
I did want to ask you the last submitted question we had was an update on baseball. And, that was another season that was cut short. And where are we in baseball? You mentioned the draft and how that'll affect rosters, but just give us a quick update on that one.
Well, baseball is we had a great team. We had I hate to say, we were pretty sure we were going back to Omaha because we had pitching. We had more pitching stacked up. There's a good chance we're going to have our first and second pitcher drafted in the first round on the 10th. Reed Detmers, Major League Baseball, has sent all the team's hats to us. We're going to have an event with he and his family and Bobby Miller and his family on Tuesday. Bobby's got a good chance to be a first round. I don't know how many teams have their first top 2 pitchers drafted in the first round, but with Luke Smith and just Adam Elliott and the bullpen, Michael Kirian, I could go on and on with the names along with the young arms. And we were really excited about going back and trying to win that thing. But with that being said, and the draft has now been cut to 5 rounds from a typical 40 rounds, it's probably going to avail us a few of these studs coming back. And so we're gonna lose Bobby and Reed for sure, and then we'll kind of see where it goes with Luke Smith and Lucas Dunn and some other kids, whether they get drafted or not. But I'm hopeful if they don't get drafted in those top 5 rounds, they're back here continuing their education and taking us back to Omaha. The one thing I would tell you, there was some notes out there about pushing the baseball season back. Northern schools wanting to do that to cut travel expenses during the spring. And I don't know that it would be pushed back a month to start. There may be a possibility of a couple weeks. I think Dan's more in line with that. I'm supportive if they want to do that. But I'm just happy they're, on 56 games is a lot of games that they play regular season. But I was telling Josh Hurd, our deputy AD, the other day, we played over 80. That's why there were so many stinkers in the classroom to play baseball back then. There's just too many games. So it's better than it was. I showed him some records back then where teams were playing over 80 games, and he couldn't believe it. He was like, what? We were gone for 2 weeks at a time. So, hopefully we've got that back on track. And I would tell you that, obviously I'm going to sell you on the fact you need to come out and watch next year's team because Alex Benellis and some of these young players are future major leaguer types that we're going to have an amazing team. And I think we still have plenty of depth in pitching. And if Luke Smith's not drafted high enough, I sat with him Monday in my office. He came over. We talked for an hour about life after baseball and the draft and what his family's thinking about. And I love that kid. And I'm excited to see what happens with him. If he gets drafted, I wish him the best. But, selfishly, I told him I hope he could see it for another year.
It's just incredible, the program and the culture that Dan McDonnell has built in that baseball program. I mean, I remember when Louisville first made a regional and then the super regionals, me and my buddies were looking around. We didn't even know how it worked. We knew Louisville had made the postseason, but nobody knew how a regional or super regional. And now, you see the demand for baseball and the atmosphere that's down there at Patterson Stadium. It's really incredible.
It's neat. Dan's done an amazing job. I'll never forget when he first got here that very first year and meeting him at a fundraiser to where we are today. And he and I talked a lot this past weekend. He's doing I may have just ended. He was having a little coaches retreat with his own coaches this week down at the lake house. I dropped him off a gift on the bench outside his front door at the lake house. So hopefully they enjoyed that, similar to what we're enjoying tonight. And, but he's done an amazing thing. And again, continuity is key we've been able to maintain that coaching staff throughout, and we redid those contracts. I guess it was last year to. We hope Eric and Roger and Coach Rabel will go on to great things at some point, but we want these guys around as long as we can.
Yes, sir. Well, we're getting close to the bottom of the hour. I want to be mindful of your time. I want to be mindful of all the listeners' times. But I do have some what I'm calling my fast five, just 5 questions for you. Just
okay.
Whatever comes to mind. But these are questions that people want to know about Vince Tyra. What has been your favorite go-to snack during this quarantine?
Oh, I got a sweet tooth, so it's peanut M&Ms. Unfortunately, that's why I'm a little soft around the middle.
All right. What show are you and the family binge watching? Have you picked up any shows? Do you have any recommendations for us?
They're more Netflix than I am. I'm probably more old school watching TV, but I'm embarrassed to tell you, I watch Big Bang Theory nonstop. I think it's hilarious. Those goobers are so funny. I really enjoy watching that show.
That's awesome. What is something that most people don't know about you that might be surprising?
Well, it's no longer a secret on my love of bourbon.
Yeah, we see.
Probably more than I'm a prankster. In this role, you're in the media a lot, and you're dealing with very serious issues on a regular basis. In my corporate life, I've dealt with that, but I think those that I've grown up with and been around, my family is a bunch of characters, and Dad had such a dry sense of humor, it would make you belly laugh, and I like to, I would say, you don't get to see it all the time, but I think, hell, I think I'm funny, but I just laugh at my own stuff. But that'd probably be it, as most of my family and friends think I'm funny, or I used to write comedy in high school for a friend who did it. And
okay.
I'm not saying I'm very good at it, but I tell a good joke.
All right. This is a tough one for you.
Yep.
What will happen next at UofL? A college football playoff appearance, college World Series appearance, men's Final Four, or women's Final Four? You're going to have to hurt somebody's feelings.
Oh, I know, but I would tell you, men's soccer starts up August 16th with an exhibition against UAB. So August 16th starts that. The College Cup. John Michael Hayden, our head men's soccer coach, would probably come after me if I didn't say the College Cup. We got to, last year, the men's and women's both. The women went as far as we've ever gone, just like the women's volleyball. They went as far as we've ever gone in program history in both those sports. But this soccer team's special in his recruiting class. I know it's not as well publicized, but amazing. Like, I can't say much about the recruit. One of the recruits that we just got, I won't say anything about that, but the top in their position around the country. And he's from down the Southwest. Just amazing what he's doing. But Coach Satterfield would say, we're going to the football playoffs. That's what he'd tell you.
I think we'd be happy with any of those answers, to be honest with you. After not having,
we've been spoiled with them, as you know, through the years. I mean, going to Orange Bowl and Sugar Bowl and Omaha on a repeated basis, Final Fours, men and women, all the things we've got to enjoy. And this past year, Elite Eight with volleyball and, field hockey, Elite Eight, like I said, women's soccer getting Sweet 16. We had an awesome year. It's unfortunate we didn't get to finish it out, but it's great memories. I remember my career quite well, and all the experiences, and I know they've had some terrific experiences to take home from being a part of Louisville.
This is my final one of the Fast Five. What's been your most proud accomplishment while at UofL? I mean, it's only been 2 years, but for you, it's probably felt like a decade that you've packed so much into those 2 years. Is there a moment, an event, a big win? Is there something that sticks out as that's the one?
Gosh, that's a good one, man, because there really has been so many, particularly this year. I could hurt some feelings. And I know this is going to sound weird. It's probably more the nerd in me that says I'm more proud of my team and what they've accomplished, my senior management team, all that we've gone through and how they've worked well together. And we've had some tall challenges, as you guys know. And, man, have they been strong, and we've gelled. Well, I'd probably say that, just developing the team that we have. I know I should say a sporting event being on here, but that's probably it. And boy, I'm going to lean on them here going forward with what we have going on in our city right now.
Well, I can back you up on that, because working in alumni, we work collaboratively a lot together, and you've assembled a great team, and they've been a lot of fun and great to work with. So
yeah, Well, Matt, you know this. Josh is on here too, I'm sure somewhere, and our groups are working as close as they ever have.
Yes.
I can't imagine. We're very collaborative between athletics and the advancement and alumni group. All that we've done, all these events have been really collaborative, sharing it. We've had some amazing events even in that time. That event before the bowl game last year down in Nashville in the arena, we pulled some strings to get the deal on the band and pulled some strings. We knew the owner of the Bridgestone Arena, and that to me was one, as a fan, that was one of my favorite of all the things I got to go to along the way, all the bowls and Final Fours and stuff. That was really fun.
That was a lot of fun. Well, Vince, thank you for joining us for tonight's installment of Cocktails with Cardinals. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing these updates on UofL sports. As I mentioned at the top, we've got people from over 23 different states joining us. If they leave us tonight with just one takeaway from this hour chat, what's the one thing you want them to log off and remember from our talk?
Well, I've said it from the day of my opening press conference when I was named the interim, and as fans, we got to dig in together. That's the phrase that we use a lot. When you're going through the times we've gone through, you got to reflect on what we've accomplished in this last 2.5 years or so to get us where we need to be as a university and an athletic department. So as I said, dig in with me. We've certainly done it, and we need your support more now than ever.
Well, Vince, thanks again. You've shared some great updates with us. I know I, for one, was feeling sports starved, so this was the info that I was craving to help, get me through summer. So thank you for joining us tonight. Before we sign off, I want to thank our sponsors, Woodford Reserve, for joining us. Kentucky Straight Ice. Get online and get your ice locked in time for summer or that Labor Day weekend we were talking about. If you want to check them out, Woodford Reserve, obviously on social at Woodford Reserve, the world's finest bourbon, and then locally owned by a UofL alum, Kentucky Straight Ice. You can find them at Kentucky Straight Ice on social media. To everyone watching, thank you again for joining us. We'd love to see you at a future UofL alumni engagement event. Go to our social media or check out our homepage tonight. And we've got them all listed up there. We'll be doing this throughout 2020, so we hope to see you. And with that, I'll say go Cards and good night.
Hell's up.